Let's react to I tracked down my WhatsApp crypto scammers from Christoph. Okay, this could be something interesting. We're gonna find out in a bit.
I want to show you a kind of group chat I keep getting added to.
Never seen that guy. Seeing him for the first time.
They all have names like VIP Wealth, Crypto Investment Elite Freedom Discussion Group with AI-generated icons and dozens, sometimes hundreds of members.
The more I mentioned these WhatsApp groups to other people, the more I realized I wasn't alone.
I'm in the Fortune Pioneer Club and
Blossoming of knowledge.
Elite Learning Forums.
These weren't just unprompted messages, they were entire conversations. Conversations with pictures of fancy vacations, golf courses, fine dining, luxury shopping, sometimes even actual bags of cash. And
I hate those cockroaches. That was on the picture, not the scammer. The scammers kinda as well. They scanned me a couple times by different methods, but kinda same thing.
every weekday, without fail.
Of course, I have a video in the channel. You can check it.
The group would fill with chatter about cryptocurrency, about how the insider tips they were getting from this group chat were making them tons of money.
I tried to ignore these groups for a very long time, but for every one that I left or reported, another one would pop up in its place. So instead of trying to ignore them, I tried to understand them. Why am I and so many other people being added to crypto trading group chats on WhatsApp? And who are the people in them who keep sending all of these messages? Over the course of a few weeks, I watched a bunch of these groups operate, and while each one had its own unique flair, I started to notice a playbook. Each group had a professor, like this one, Claire Thomas, who would share investment advice that sounded vaguely professional, and each professor had an assistant, like Daisy. The assistant was the first point of contact for new members who wanted to start trading, and they would regularly share a sign-up link to an investment website. Every morning, messages from members would start coming in, saying good morning, sharing lifestyle updates, and eagerly awaiting what they called trading signals from the professor. Basically, instructions on when to buy more or less of a certain cryptocurrency. Eventually, the professor would step in and share those trading signals, group chat members would post screenshots of their profits, the assistant would share the link for new people to sign up, and the next day, it would all just kind of start over again. I wanted to know if any of this was real. The pictures, the people, the investment sites. My guess was no, but I wanted to make sure. So I started doing reverse image searches on every photo in the chat. Some photos had enough clues to tell where they were taken. I matched this photo to this resort in Bali, this one to this mall in Dubai, and this one to this cafe in Shenzhen, China. Others were from New York, Los Angeles, Napa Valley, kind of these centers of global wealth and luxury. Then, one by one, I found where these photos originally came from. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, always posted to the internet long before they were used in the group chat, and always posted by accounts with different names than the ones who would eventually share them on WhatsApp. Like this picture, originally posted by this caterer in South Africa. She has a web presence, we can tell she's real. A year later, an account named Caden Aliyah shares it in one of these group chats. So yes, the people in this group chat were sharing images that were stolen from elsewhere on the internet. But what about the people themselves? Claire Thomas, Daisy, Carrie, were they real? From the get-go, the way they talked sounded a little off.
Mr. Robert's signal has been issued.
Brothers, you guys chat. I'm going to continue drinking.
Okay, making money is happiness.
I'm going to drive the kids to the supermarket to buy some
When you make
delicious
money,
food.
you spend it in various ways. Just be happy.
I wanted to figure out who these people really were. So I reverse image searched them too. Professor Claire Thomas was actually a London-based model named Tony P. His assistant, Daisy Carey, was Nilüfer Batur, a Turkish news personality. So, made up names with pictures of real people. But others seemed to be impersonating real people from real companies. like Yasmina Haig, the assistant for a group chat called ARK Wealth Exchange 518, who appeared to be a real administrative assistant at ARK Invest, a real investment management firm. I reached out to ARK and they confirmed that neither they nor their CEO, Kathy Wood, do any business on WhatsApp, which, makes sense. I kept going with every member of these group chats. Every photo, every identity was stolen from somewhere else on the internet. So, yes, fake images and fake people. But what about the investment sites? For that, I had to learn a little bit about how to detect a fraud site. Fraud sites are often very close copies of a legitimate site. Like here, Bitmart is a legitimate cryptocurrency exchange, but Bitmart-Trans isn't. I also learned how to use a search tool called Whois. I could plug in a domain and see how long sites had been around. If a domain was registered relatively recently and expires relatively soon, there's a good chance it could be a scam. So there we had it. Fake pictures, fake people, fake investment sites. But what would happen if I clicked? The idea of clicking on these links to see these investment sites was really, really tempting. But I was nervous to open them on any of my own devices, so I set up a virtual machine, basically an emulation of a computer isolated from the rest of my computer. I went to one of the scam sites and made an account with fake information. This was it. Every one of these WhatsApp groups I'd been added to was designed to get me onto a site like this and to get me to deposit money into it. And to deposit money, I had to send cryptocurrency to one of these wallet addresses. That's like a bank account number for sending and receiving cryptocurrencies. I used a site called Etherscan to look up those addresses' transaction histories. And I asked the blockchain intelligence firm Chainalysis to help me understand what I was seeing. They told me that the address was relatively new and that the group was primarily cashing out at a large global exchange. If people trusted the accounts in this WhatsApp group enough to send them money, I wanted to hear what those accounts had to say. Okay, really quick before we get to that. This channel is a new independent journalism project. We're going to be diving down rabbit holes and showing you the entire process of how we reported a story, start to finish, every single time. If you want to see more stories like this, you should subscribe for more. And we're going to be supporting this channel through ads. We're always going to be marking them very clearly so that you know there's no overlap between the journalism and the sponsor. This is a story about one very specific kind of scam, but obviously the internet is full of all kinds and you can't always do a whole investigation into every single one. So it's important to have tools that are doing that investigating for you. That is where NordVPN comes in. They are the sponsor of today's video. The coding thing from what's cool is that you don't need, and then Vision T is real, and scam texts, just by responding, you're basically confirming that your number is real, and scammers can then sell that real information to other scammers, making the problem even worse. So it's best never to respond. But here's what happened when I did. First, I started talking to the assistants. They all cut to the chase pretty quick, trying to get me to register for an account on their site. When I tried to stall, I got a message from a fellow group member, Trip Reese, who told me that he'd been worried about losing money but had made a bit of profit. It was fascinating to see the different kinds of angles they were using to try to get me to sign up. If huge sums of money were not going to change my mind, maybe modest sums of money would. If authority figures weren't going to change my mind, maybe relatable figures would. I didn't even know if these were all different people or if they were just one person with different phones, different WhatsApp accounts, all texting me. And after a while, I wanted to see if I could talk to somebody on the phone. Most people said no. But then, unexpectedly, one assistant, Daisy, said yes. So I gave her my number and I waited for her call.
Hello?
Hi, did I just miss a call from this number?
Yes, I called you. It's Daisy.
Oh.
We've been chatting.
Hi.
From, so you want me to call you, right?
Yeah. Can you just tell me a bit more about what, how all this works?
Yeah, sure. But, actually, because we have a lot of clients, we prefer to communicate on WhatsApp. So I can send you all the information and you can start by registering an account.
Okay. Can you remind me where you're based out of? Is this an American company?
Yes, in San Francisco.
Oh, no way. Are you also based in San Francisco with the company?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So I will text you on WhatsApp.
Okay. And can I reach you at this number again if I have more questions?
Yeah, sure.
Basically, they didn't answer any question.
Of course.
Okay. And that's the 646 number?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for your time then.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh, I was so nervous. I was not expecting that. I needed to talk to someone who could help me understand what was going on the other end of that call. So I reached out to Erin.
Battery low. Please charge.
Erin West. She's a prosecutor with REACT, a task force in Santa Clara County, California that fights cybercrime. And she told me exactly what would happen if I had followed through with what Daisy was asking.
So what's going to happen is she's going to direct you to take your money out of your bank and move it into a cryptocurrency exchange. You're going to open a legitimate account at a legitimate exchange like Coinbase or crypto.com. And she's going to now teach you how to change your US dollars into a cryptocurrency. And she's going to say, okay, now it's time to invest it in our special platform. And you are going to be instructed on how to send your crypto out to a wallet address that she will give you or an app.
Even that's too many steps. Basically, you will simply put the money directly into their platform. You probably can do that by card on the platform without even to have a different exchange like she is referring to.
That you can click on, or what appears to be a legitimate investment site online. You're going to see a shiny dashboard that's going to show you now you have $500 in Tether in your account. But really, at that point, your money's already gone.
These WhatsApp groups are the latest version of this scam, but if you live in the US, you've probably already been exposed to an earlier version, random number texts. If you respond to these texts, you'll get this. A flood of conversation designed to emotionally manipulate you into trusting the person on the other end. They're using your desire for connection, for friendship or romance or professional opportunities to get something out of you. These conversations can start over text, dating apps, LinkedIn, but they all typically eventually move to WhatsApp. And after weeks or even months of building intimacy, these scammers will all introduce the same kind of proposal, that they can help you make tons of money investing in cryptocurrency.
They are using psychological tips and tricks on you to make you, A, believe that you're becoming wealthy, B, that you are in possession of special investment data that separates you from other people who don't know these secrets.
This kind of scam has a name.
Pig butchery.
Pig butchery.
This is kind of impossible. Only probably if you create the coin. That's only how to have the inside information. Also, there is one of the reactions from the channel from the last week. They were exposing those people that actually were stealing this inside information and were selling it to hackers. So you can watch that as well.
Butchering scams have reached a crisis level, with victims often losing their life savings.
It's a name coined by the scammers themselves for the process of fattening up a victim with emotional intimacy before slaughter, basically taking all their assets and cutting them off. On these fake investment sites, victims see dashboards showing huge returns. They see their money growing bigger and bigger. And they believe that growth is thanks to the guidance of someone they now trust.
Victims of this crime are seeing so much wealth accumulating and they're really believing it.
because they believe it, they put more money in.
They then follow suggestions of the scammer to liquidate 401ks and to liquidate children's college accounts.
But if they try to withdraw at all, they're told that they need to deposit more money in taxes or fees. And once they're unwilling or unable to deposit any more, that's when they're cut off for good.
By the time they get to me, they have lost everything they have because they literally put every penny into it.
I had nothing left.
No, I definitely was not able to get it back.
I really felt like I trusted this person.
It's a devastating feeling.
A 2024 study estimated that since pig butchering scams began, they've stolen more than $75 billion globally.
And so this is happening in mass. This is the biggest threat that nobody's talking about.
Erin helped me understand how this scam worked, but I still wanted to better understand who was doing the scamming. So I asked her.
It's a convergence of crypto and COVID. Prior to COVID, Chinese organized crime was looking for a way to work in gambling. They knew that gambling was illegal in China and that crypto was illegal in China. And so they were looking for ways to run their gambling empire. And the right place for it was Cambodia. So Chinese organized crime syndicates set up casino fronts with big towers in the back that could be used as hotels or could be used as live-work locations for online gambling.
When COVID shut down the world, those crime syndicates couldn't fill their casino hotels with tourists, so they repurposed them for an internet-based business instead, pig butchering.
It preyed upon kind-hearted victims who had time to talk during COVID. So it really was kind of a tsunami that worked in their favor.
But scamming at an industrial scale needed a workforce. So crime syndicates posted listings like this one for seemingly high-end jobs looking for educated bilingual applicants, and the applications flooded in.
They would accept their free travel to Bangkok. When they arrived in Bangkok, their passports would be taken. They'd be put in buses and bused to either Cambodia, where these casino towers were, or Myanmar, where there were compounds set up on the other side of the river from Thailand. And from there, they were forced to participate as the workforce for this new type of con.
In 2023, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights estimated that at least 120,000 people in Myanmar and 100,000 people in Cambodia may be held in situations where they are forced to carry out online scams.
We don't know a lot about what's really happening in there. What we know is when there are survivors who are able to get out by their families paying a ransom or they're able to escape, we've heard some really vile horror stories about what's going on inside these compounds.
All of a sudden, I was...
So basically, those are people that are held hostages when they are forced to do that. Not sure if that's even legit, but it could be. But actually, why to have so many people when you can simply systemize all that one person to operate hundreds of those accounts? How is that common sense to hold hostages thousands of people, hundreds of thousands? I don't know.
Faced with the stakes of this story, with the fact that the scammers that I'd been talking to over the phone could be victims themselves.
We have to be really delicate with people that we are trying to get information from who are still inside because their lives are at risk every single day. There are real consequences for people we talk to on the inside, and so we need to just be really wary of any kind of danger that we put them in.
At this point, I started to wonder what we were actually trying to do with this story. These group chats in my WhatsApp could be created by Chinese organized crime, conducting a crime with victims on both ends of the chat. And if the lives of the people trying to scam me were in danger, I didn't want to mess with them any more than necessary. I decided that the best thing that we could do was to narrow down our question to just one thing. Where were these scammers based? If we could confirm somehow that the scammers in my phone were part of a Chinese criminal operation, that felt like enough. So I looked for organizations fighting pig butchering scams, and I found the Global Anti-Scam Organization, which helps release trafficking victims across Southeast Asia. I reached out and I heard back from Troy Gokenauer. Troy started working as an investigator for the organization after he lost money in a crypto romance scam.
By the time it was all said and done, and they kept telling me to put more and more in, I had lost about $25,000. The whole romance side of it was, it felt very real.
People that are losing money in crypto scams, aside of those that are opening phishing something link, are people that knows nothing about crypto, zero knowledge. They're just thinking that they're the ones that knows more, that deserves more, that are the lucky ones, and they will never be. So that's how people, normal regular people without crypto knowledge, are losing everything.
Felt very legitimate. I felt like anybody else did. I felt like an idiot for falling for it. Like, I get it. Everybody who thinks that if you fall for a scam, you're dumb and stupid. Yeah, you're right. I felt that way.
They are not dumb. They are simply falling into the trap of being FOMO, like the fear of missing out, and this particular feeling of feeling lucky, and how there will be fortune. There will be so much fortune after that they will fix their situation. That's different from being dumb and stupid.
And when I realized that it was a scam, that my money was gone, I wanted to commit suicide. Now, I only lost $25,000. Maybe if I'd have had more money, maybe I would have lost more. Like, thank God I didn't.
$25,000 are a lot of money. And probably that was all of his money. That's the whole point. People that are losing money are losing all their money. Because they're so close to become wealthy that they're simply giving all they have.
I realized I could not stay depressed and feeling, all those feelings. I couldn't stay in that place. I wanted to do something about it because I saw that we got a big problem here.
I asked Troy if there was any way we could learn anything about who was behind the group chats I was in.
There is a program that we use called Grabify.link. It allows you to take a legitimate URL and you can attach a Grabify link to it. You could send that to them.
Yes, simply a tracking link. And if the people from other side open that link, you will learn the IP from which they open it. But they're probably using VPNs and proxies and other stuff and virtual machines. But,
if they
you can track it.
Click on it and they don't have a VPN, it may give you approximate location of where they are.
It was the most promising possible solution yet to figure out where these WhatsApp groups were based. Using Grabify, I made custom links for 4 scammers from 4 different WhatsApp groups. When each scammer clicked their link, it would take them to a real website, but it would also take a snapshot of the settings on their computer, like language, IP address, and most important of all, location. To get them to click, I'd have to use one of their own tricks against them. Social engineering, using psychological tricks to get someone to make a security mistake. I did that by acting like I was really, really ready to send money, but I just wasn't sure if I would be able to do it from a certain bank. I started sending out the links. First to one of the assistants. And I waited. They acknowledged the message, but didn't click the link. I sent it again, still no click. So I sent another Grabify link to a different website, but still nothing. Maybe this wasn't going to work. So next, I sent a link to another assistant, and I waited until they clicked. Suddenly, I had this picture of the computer on the other end. I could see their browser, operating system, internet service provider, and IP address. There was just one big problem. Their location showed up as New York, Grabify flagged that they were likely using a VPN, and there wasn't much other information to go off of. So then I sent out another, and they clicked. This time, there were even more details about the computer on the other end. They were likely using a VPN too, set to Elk Grove Village, Illinois. But there was one detail that told us something new. ZHCN, the language code for simplified Chinese. And even though the time zone was set to the eastern US, that setting was also written in Chinese. Finally, I sent out one last link. A few moments later, they clicked. And just like the one before them, their language was set to simplified Chinese with Eastern US time zone written in Chinese. I reported all this back to Troy. He believed that because the computer language was set to simplified Chinese, it could be a Chinese pig butchering scam, and that all the people on the other end had just manually adjusted their time zones to match the Eastern US. It was not a perfect answer, but it felt like the closest thing we were going to get to confirmation.
We didn't saw the notification for VPN in the last one.
And that these WhatsApp groups were part of this global phenomenon operated by Chinese organized crime. And I wanted to leave actually contacting trafficking victims to the professionals. As part of his investigative work, Troy has been in contact with a Chinese national doing scam work out of a compound in Myanmar. And the messages speak for themselves. So, what can we do about this? For starters, if you've been contacted by anybody on the internet who's now coaching you for investing in cryptocurrency, you should know that it is likely a scam. You can change your WhatsApp settings so that only contacts can add you to groups, and you can leave and report the groups that you are added to. If you are a victim, you can report what happened to law enforcement and file a report with the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3.
If anyone is watching this, and you are a victim of the scam, reach out to law enforcement. It doesn't matter if it happened last week or 3 years ago, because I have some good news. Back in June of this year, I received an email from the Secret Service saying that they have seized an account that my scam was tied to. And long story short, come this fall, I might be getting a full recovery of my funds 3 years after it happened. So I would encourage anyone, if they're a victim and they're watching this, report your losses.
It's also crucial for all of us.
This will be a big thing, but probably the money are in the account, that's why they were never moved. Could be, but probably that's the case.
Us to have empathy and patience for victims. The stigma and embarrassment of feeling taken advantage of prevents a lot of people from coming forward.
One of the reasons why we don't know how big this problem is because there are plenty of victims who are not willing to come forward. We need to lead with empathy. And if you don't think this could happen to you, okay, all right. But it's a fact that it's happening to tens of thousands of people. And if you don't give them a soft space to be able to disclose that this happened to them, then we just keep putting this thing under the rug and we never know how big it is and we don't get help.
This crime exists at the intersection of technology and human nature, exploiting our most basic desires for living a better life and for having social connection at a time when the internet makes those things feel easier than ever to miss out on. The best thing that we can do is be cautious enough to look out for ourselves and patient enough to look out for each other.
Okay, I thought the guy in the middle is the replaces.